I think it's important to talk about these things with the general society, because it's important that people understand the things or the values that we want to promote, and it's important for us in this event.
Tell us more about what Once Foundation do and kind of the other points of technology that you work on and all of the other things that you do, which are amazing.
In our case, I work in Once Foundation. Once Foundation is a company to get equal opportunities for people with disability in Spain, and our money comes to a special lottery in our country that blind people sell this kind of lottery, and we get money to improve the life of people with disabilities. In my case, I work in an accessible technologies department, and I am responsible of a video games project. In my life, when I was 10, I discovered that I can play video games because I have several problems to play in a park. But when I was 10, I discovered that I can play with video games, and it's true that I have friends late than other children. But when I discover my friends and in this moment I have a full personal life with friends and other people in my life, and I am so happy. But it's true that video games help me to start this new life for me. And now as a professional, I am a responsible of an accessible video games project to get a better situation for other people with disabilities. In our case, we have 4 lines in our projects. The first of all is formation and employment, because we think that it's really important that society take into account people with disability in the industries and with employment. It's important that we introduce people with disability in all of parts with dignity and in a good way. So we work with education and employment in our project. Then the main part is accessibility. In this part, we work with a lot of companies that maybe you know as PlayStation, Microsoft or Nintendo, to get the best way for different video games and different products. The part that I enjoy more is awareness, because in different events around Spain, we put different challenges. If someone with if someone with disability comes, we demonstrate that play video games is a possibility for them with different devices or different accessibility measures. But if someone without disability come to our booth, in that moment, people decide their destiny and maybe use a mask or only an elbow or only one hand, or it's a special challenge to discover our difficulties to play video games and how the accessibility measure helps. It's important for us because I think it's important to talk about these things with the general society, because it's important that people understand the things or the values that we want to promote, and it's important for us in these events. And the last part, okay, now.
Well, I think it's really amazing, particularly how you're giving people without a disability that kind of, putting the barrier in place so that you can, have a go and feel what it would be like to play games in different ways.
I invite you with me to test it.
I'd love to come and test it. I think it'd be super fun. But in talking about all of this accessibility measures, we also have to think about the fact that being disabled can be really expensive. Just in life, being a disabled person adds on sometimes a very hefty financial cost. And how then are we able to, can the industry help make sure that those who are most in need or might most benefit from some of these new technologies would be able to really access them kind of in a market scenario? I know, Robert, you had some thoughts that you wanted to add on this.
I think if we ask the question, is making accessible the video games for disabled people a costly thing? You're actually asking the question in the wrong way. I think it was Carl Sagan who said that when people ask me, is it likely that you have human beings or life elsewhere in the universe? He said that you are asking the wrong question. How likely is it that it is not life in this huge universe? And the same goes for cost for disabled people and the gaming industry. You said that more than 3 billion people are gamers. More than 3 billion people are gamers in the world. As much as 30% of them are in one way or another disabled. So it's a market of 1 billion people. Do you want to give away a market of 1 billion people because you don't make your games accessible for disabled people? The answer to that is easy. It's of course no, but they haven't understood it the right way yet. You told us that this is the first year that you have a ramp here for the stage in Cannes. So it's baby steps again to really understand this. But of course a market of 1 billion people is a huge, interesting, valuable market for the gaming industry. We had a conference call the other week with Blizzard, the owner of World of Warcraft. They are launching Diablo 4 on the 6th of June. They expect 100 million people to play it the first day. And 1/3 of them will be in one way or another disabled. For the first time in the history of World of Warcraft, you have to opt out of texting of the game. You have to opt out of voice over on text for the first time. So they are now actually stepping towards making it accessible for most people and not the other way around, making it accessible for those who don't have a disability, but making it accessible for as many people as possible from the first day, and then make people opt out instead of opting in. And that is actually changing, I think, the mentality of the industry. It's not a cost, it's a huge opportunity of revenue.
Sheyna, how do you see this from your perspective? Okay,
since
Sheyna has a cough, I can tell you, I asked the wrong question deliberately. I mean, the purple pound, you talked about purple being a colour that you could keep the purple, and it's true, there's $13 trillion of annual disposable income held by the disabled people worldwide, and so it is a huge market opportunity. So Sheyna, as you've recovered now slightly, I turn to you. Like, in terms of your market approach to the industry, is this part of your strategy to market to your product to the disabled community, kind of as a first market, or to how is this affecting how you're marketing to gaming companies and to other parts of the industry as well?
Well, we don't have any particular strategy for disabled, because we've been working to make it a part of an intrinsic part of what the product is. So our focus is gaming, then our second focus are films, and then all the rest, music and smart cities. But they're only sectors. It doesn't involve the people, because the people are already involved. You will be able to choose, anyone will be able to choose to deactivate muscles. So this is very important. We first realized with Enrique, he can't feel in his arms. So we had to think of a way to deactivate. We've had this with several people, just simply having issues or problems with their nerves. They need to deactivate certain muscles, or if you have implants, or if you have any kind of difference or physiological difference, you have to deactivate muscles. So this is applied to anyone. It doesn't differentiate from one person to another, and it adds sensations to everyone. If you've got phobia, you can choose to calibrate that sensation to 0. You can choose to feel less intensity, more intensity. So it's a product that it adapts to everyone, no matter who you are. So that's what we're going for. Obviously, we do talk about the importance of the sense of touch for people who don't have who don't have all the senses or need that extra push from another sense, and that is very attractive to companies and to video game studios especially.
Well, we're going to have an opportunity for questions from the audience, so do have a think if you'd like to ask any questions. But in the meantime, I turn to Ingvil. You know, we're talking about transforming the industry, but also, you know, we want to transform society as well. You know, Duchenne muscular dystrophy is a disease that robs. It's a thief and it steals. But you know, Matt's had such life through gaming. And what's your hope for what the documentary Ibelin can tell to the audiences and how they might respond? And what would you like the legacy of the film to be?
I think the most important thing is actually it does not have to do with disability. It has to do with connecting to people. And Mats was such an inspiration. And that has nothing to do with his disability. He's simply an inspiration, and he helped his friends much more than most of us do.
I think that's very true. The power of gaming is also in how we connect to one another, and you know, turning then sort of to how gaming and storytelling and esports connect. I know that you have research coming up on esports, and esports is a huge market with people, you know, watching games being played online. Tell us about your research and what the vision and the hope that you'll uncover in this is.
I think esports is the competitive part of the video games, and in this moment they have a special focus in the society because they have different competitive teams and different awards and streaming and Twitch, and it's a big new world. But what is the role of the people for the people with disability in this new ecosystem or in this new part? The problem in this moment is that we have the devices that people with disability can play different video games, but in this case, when you have in a competitive environment, you have to secure the equal opportunities for everybody, because these players can get different money or different, and when the money is on the table, the requirements change, and we are afraid about that. Maybe blind people win a special play in a big event, in a big world event, and someone say these blind people received help with their device or other things. So we are trying to get or to create a new standard to give different recommendations for people with disability and for the jury in this kind of events to get a good balance, but it's difficult. When my workmates, when my colleagues in this session talked about cost or about different things related to a new market, I think that the general society and the culture have a new way, because the people discovered that people with disability have money too, and it's a new market to get more money and to explore new situations. So it's true that the inclusion is there and it's a reality and it's really good, but it's a new market too, and it's important to put on the table.